Welcome to the League of Women Voters 2025 Mayor of Lino Lakes Forum. I'm Julie Trude, the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Anoka, Blaine, and Coon Rapids area. I do not live in Lino Lakes. The League of Women Voters conducts candidate forums to provide the public with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to them. Questions posed to the candidates come from those submitted by the public. The League is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The views expressed in each forum are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. We are recording this forum at North Metro TV Studios. The recording will be posted in its entirety on the North Metro TV website, the LWV ABC website, as well as the LWV ABC YouTube channel and the Vote 411 website. Candidates may post and share links to the recording in its entirety, but editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan or political purposes. 3 candidates filed for mayor of Lino Lakes. Candidates Catherine Decker and Rob Rafferty have agreed to participate. Candidate Luke Walter informed us he would not be participating and is no longer seeking votes. I will start by posing 2 background questions the candidates received with our invitation. 90 seconds is allowed for each of these questions. We alternate who starts first. So, Candidate Decker, what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would help you to serve effectively?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm interested in running for council because I'm concerned about development and the effects that that's having in Lino Lakes. I'm also concerned about financial and fiscal responsibility, taxes, and where and how we're spending our money as a city. And I'm also interested in helping in increasing the quality of the communication between the city and the residents. The background that I bring that supports this is previously I was a vice president of human resources. Subsequently, I opened my own HR consulting firm. After that, I'm currently now a mortgage loan originator running my own firm, and I think that these experiences in executive positions, experiences with boards and volunteer capacities, experience in real estate, all will help me if I am elected mayor to fulfill the priorities as mentioned.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would help you to serve effectively?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us again. It's a strange path to get here, the motivation, if you will, because it never started that way. The motivation was when we had children, my wife and I, Amy, was to try and find a good foundation for a home and find a location that was associated to not only, opportunities golden for the neighborhood with valued resources, if you will, as well as a school district, which was so important. We chose Lino Lakes in 1997, and we built a home. Now, from that moment on, all of a sudden things did change. Building the home in the area was one thing, but at the same time, it opened my eyes to a different type of connection, and the connection was to the land. To the farmers and the sweat equity that they put back into the land. And that shaped the city long before we were here ourselves. That was a very pivoting point for me, realizing that understanding this place called Lino Lakes was about a lot of family history, a lot of farmers' legacies, if you will, to the farmers' families that built Lino Lakes. So with that, I'm committed to continue to work with the knowledge and understandings that I've gained serving Lino Lakes for the last 28 years. I've had the privilege of serving in Lino Lakes on the Charter Commission for 2 years, Planning and Zoning for 8 years, the city council for 10, and the council meeting and the mayor for 6. With that, variety of different things related to professional services and architecture, and all these positions and experiences enforce my understanding of Lino Lake's values to stewardship, service through integrity of hard work by making decisions promptly, professionally, that reflect both tradition and progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with candidate Rafferty. What are your goals for the future of the city of Lino Lakes?
Goals are going to be to continue the taking care of and addressing the tangible items, if you will. Tangible things are the roads, the infrastructure. We have 110 linear miles. It's the reinvestment of those roads, the reinvestment of taking care of those particular projects, if you will. We have a 5-year plan that identifies things in a grading process, if you will, through engineering services, and that gives us the abilities to prioritize roads that are in worse shape than others, and then we prioritize those to value the process, if you will, to get the best bang for the buck on the investments that we're making. The continuation of that is the parks and trails. Again, trails, the parks are a generation of when developments come into the city. As those developments come in, some are not getting a park, but all are paying a park dedication fee. Those fees go towards the upkeep and things of the land, if you will, but at a certain point, there has to be a reinvestment to modernize and through ADA type standards, if you will, modernize the equipment. And then last, of course, is the trail system. Those are our heartbeat to our good health and to manage those and expand that so other parts of the area in the city can be take advantage of them also.
Thank you. Candidate Decker, what are your goals for the future of the city of Lino Lakes?
Lino Lakes motto or tagline is a city with a vision. I've researched, tried to find out if I could see any documentation about what exactly this vision is for the city. I haven't been able to find one. I think it would behoove everyone, though, if we could identify at least some pillars of what we think the vision of the city is, because that will help us in our decision-making about all kinds of things, including development, finances, etc. So I'd be interested in the future of Lino Lakes if we could solidify around a vision or a few pillars that would help direct our path forward. I'm also interested in hearing from residents and people involved in the community for a long time what they really care and cherish about in Lino Lakes, and I've heard it time and time again, is the rural feel, and I think that should play into the future of Lino Lakes significantly, especially when it comes to development. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the next questions will be 1 minute each, and we start with candidate Decker. Tell us about your leadership style and how you work with others.
My leadership style and how I work with others. My leadership style is I really prefer to take some time to hear the question and take some time to think about it and talk with others, gain some insights, not make rash decisions, do some community and consensus building before making a decision. Oftentimes I find that leads, some thoughtfulness leads to better quality decisions, and I think that's a big part of my leadership style. It's also part of why when I speak at open mic, I take some time to prepare a written speech ahead of time. These on the spot is not necessarily my comfort level, but I think that consensus building is important, but the foundation is really the constitutional values that our country was founded on are so deeply important and need to be honored at every step of the way in all of the decision making.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, tell us about your leadership style and how you work with others.
The leadership style kind of starts right on the surface, educating yourself with the answers and things, opportunity to listen, learn from others. I firmly believe in clarity versus assumption, if you will. So there's a continuation of answering questions or asking questions to identify what that clarity is. It allows me the opportunity to share that information as far as also asking additional comments or questions from whether it's the residents, other council members, but digging in to each and every one of the involved questions, if you will, or comments, or better yet, subject matters that we have before us in a council meeting. So it's continually trying to ask questions, learn things, and try and address them in the best fashion possible.
Thank you. And now, Candidate Rafferty, share some things you really love about Lino Lakes, and then tell us something you hope to change.
Well, I think go back just to the tangible items, if you will, the trails and things like that. I mean, one of the things in Lino Lakes that's just so great is you get on these trails. They do connect neighborhoods to each other. There's no question there. But 9 times out of 10, you can still jump on a path, and before you know it, you're going by the positive things that we have that surround us all over the place. It's the woods. It's walking in this tranquil place of quietness and solitude. You have these opportunities, and they're not enough, unfortunately, because of some of the newer neighborhoods, if you will. They have that investment from the developers that creates those trails. I, again, feel very important that the tangible items of trying to assist people that don't have those trails and bring those neighborhoods back into the center of the city, if you will.
Thank you. Candidate Decker, share some things you really love about Lino Lakes, and then tell us something you hope to change.
I love what most people love about Lino Lakes. It's the rural feel. It's good neighbors who watch out for their neighbors. It's the wildlife. It's the trees. It's the water. It's awesome, and it's located in a wonderful spot. In addition, because it's so close to the Twin Cities area, where if you did want to go downtown to a hockey game or a Twins game, it's reasonable to do in an evening, even after work. But it really, if you're working downtown, coming home to Lino Lakes really feels like you've stepped out of the city and into rural, which is so wonderful. And I think what I could change, if I could change anything, would be the foothold that the Met Council has on forcing cities like Lino Lakes, who want to preserve their rural character, into developing into cities that feel a lot more like Blaine or Woodbury, for example. And that's not what Lino Lakes is, nor what I want it to be.
Thank you. Candidate Decker, this question is about the Rookery. Do you have ideas for improving or expanding what is offered there?
The Rookery is interesting. My understanding of the Rookery is that there was a partnership of some sort between the city and the YMCA that was supposed to go for 30 years or something to that effect, and the YMCA kind of pulled the plug earlier than anticipated, and the city has needed to figure out what to do with that. I'm sure you can correct me if I've misstated anything, Mr. Rafferty. I'm open to ideas. I am concerned about the Rookery overall, though, because my understanding of the financial position is that the Rookery costs the taxpayers about $500,000 a year because it is not self-funding. And that's a big concern, especially when we're looking at other capital investments for water and other things around the city. This shortfall is significant and does need to be addressed.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, this question is about the Rookery. Do you have ideas for improving or expanding what is offered?
We have discussed many different things, as Ms. Decker has pointed out. There was an agreement with the YMCA, 30 years, COVID hit, they wanted to go a new direction. Our feeling was that we have an agreement, we will not renegotiate. Now we have the rookery in its entirety. What we've got going on for programs and things, it's been very successful in that regard. But again, community service type things like this, community centers, they're not self-sustaining. It will always be an investment by the city. We've heard positive things about getting it reopened, and it was. And now I think the plan should be to try and look at that and try and enhance its features by expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Rafferty will start with this next question. Mayors often advocate for their community to other levels of government. What Lino Lakes priorities would you seek to gain support for when talking to county or state officials?
Well, I think we have a very large community park, 5,500 acres right in the middle of the city. It's extremely difficult to get from point A to B if you're on the east side or west side, anywhere in the city of Lino Lakes. The engagement has been talked about. There are public safety entities that are extremely important related to the fire department as well as rescue on the lakes and in those types of things. So there's been some discussions there internally about what is the proper product that we need. And then at the same time, we will be touching base with Anoka County on those types of issues. Try to address it because, again, their park and we're in charge of watching it.
Thank you. And candidate Decker. Mayors often advocate for their community to other levels of government. What Lino Lakes priorities would you seek to gain support for when talking to county or state officials?
That's a good question. Mr. Rafferty has the advantage in having some experience and knowledge about what kinds of things your question entails. I guess not having that experience yet, I would say I don't want to do things in the city and take grants or funding or whatever. I view it all as taxpayer money. So it's taxpayers who made that grant or funding possible. It's the taxpayers who should receive the highest value for that money. It should not be spent on things that make us feel good but don't really enhance anything. Whatever those projects would be, I don't know what the pools of the dollars are that are potentially available, but I'm certainly open for options or for discussion and making wise decisions. But I wouldn't want to take money to make to have it spent just to feel good that we got the money without it actually creating real benefit for the residents of Lino Lakes.
Thank you. Candidate Decker, you start with this next question. The Main Street Master Plan has been approved. Do you support it, and how might this plan shape future development?
And the second part was how might
this plan shape future development?
Yeah, the Main Street was a big deal, is a big deal. I have concerns about it. I overall don't support it. I support the landowners being able to make the decision to sell their land to whoever they're going to sell it to. I mean, there's got to be a balance there. But I think that what's planned to go in this section of Lino Lakes, if I were to say, does that, as a singular project, does this project represent who we are as Lino Lakes? Or does it take who Lino Lakes is and move the pendulum in one direction or the other? I view it as moving the pendulum towards more higher density, less rural, more urban living, which is not what people in Lino Lakes love about Lino Lakes, which tells me that what Lino Lakes is about and what is cherished about it is diminishing with the approval of this project.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, the Main Street Master Plan has been approved. Do you support it? How might this plan shape future development?
Thank you. The master plan was a study put together over a year ago. There was an enormous amount of input from citizens as well as consultants putting the information together. And when it finally came to fruition as far as how is this, how does this look, how does this feed for the future, again, is it perfect? I would say it's done very well, and yet nothing is perfect. So is there room for improvement? The improvements that we would maybe be seeing are coming from the developer, if you will. We don't know what it is yet. We don't know who a developer is or what the developers are. But I see that as being an extremely important plan as far as how master plans go and how they're used in real life. So I think it's extremely important, but it's not perfect.
Thank you. The next two questions are about public safety, and we start with candidate Rafferty. Consultants provided many suggestions in their strategic review of Lino Lake's public safety services. What actions would you prioritize as a result of this study and why?
Well, the actions that are taking place, that have taken place, quite a bit of them are already. We had an interim city administrator that took over the position back in October, and he has moved forward with several of the constructive criticisms, if you will, or things that we need to address for public safety. The number one main thing was to split the police and fire department into two separate entities. We have Chief of Police and Kurt Boehm doing an absolutely excellent job, and we have Dan Lawyer as the fire chief, who's doing absolutely an excellent job as Lino Lake's first full-time fire police captain, or chief. Having said that, though, there's a lot of different things that we're trying to address. We're trying to address daytime hours as far as our duty crews that are covering 7 days a week now, 12 hours a day with 2 people at 2 stations. And at the same time, that leads into the paid on call, also backfilling positions that are needed when there's emergency apparatus needed for whether it's structural fires or medical aid, that type of thing.
Thank you. And candidate Decker, what actions would you prioritize as a result of this study and why? We're talking about the public safety service study.
My understanding, I know that the city received some input at open mic, as I recall, that it could be advantageous for the city to split the police and fire from one organization where people are cross-trained to do both roles into 2 separate entities where you have dedicated skills. And my understanding is in the year or so since that comment was made, the city did embark on with a consultant to assess some of these things and has made that decision. I think it's unfortunate, though, that a study was needed in order to determine that this would have been a cost savings and a pretty logical thing to do. So I would hope that in the future, now that we've been through this experience, perhaps we can take a different approach and perhaps save some money along the way while we continue to make effective improvements.
Thank you. And candidate Decker, the second question on this topic, what do you want to say to residents about public safety in Lino Lakes?
I think a couple of things about public safety in Lino Lakes. I think overall we're in a pretty good spot when it comes to crime or the concern about public safety, and Lino Lakes is a pretty safe space, I think. That's my understanding anyway, or my experience as well. And that's good. I think that what's really important with policing is that we all remember the constitutional values that are important, our rights that are important, both for residents and for police officers. And we have to strike a balance so we can go too far one way or the other, and keeping ourselves educated, all parties, onto how to enact so that we protect our constitutional rights all the way around the table is critical, I think.
Thank you. And Candidate Rafferty, what do you want to say to residents about public safety in Lino Lakes?
It's the number one thing that people are worried about the most and want to make sure that we are covering the best. Our current services with the police department as well as the fire department are really second to none. We have some growing pains, if you will, with the additional men and women that are needed in the fire department. That is true. And yet at the same time, the level of respect that we have, from our peers in the fire and police industries, if you will, are very good for who we have in charge and how the men and women work. They're working under complete stress all the time with different things happening on a daily basis. Yet at the same time, we want to continually try and react to the services of the police department by police and fire department by making sure that we are a employer of choice, and that's done with integrity and justice and honesty on how these men and women perform, whether it's in police and or fire.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, the next question is about city water. What would you tell a prospective resident who is concerned about the safety of the city's water?
5 years ago, we had to look at randomly chosen to test our wells by the state of Minnesota. We tested a well, and then we tested them all. They asked for one, we tested them all. Conclusion was that we have levels of manganese in a few of the wells that are higher than what would be so-called acceptable in the future. All of the things that we have today as standards for all of our wells are meeting the guidelines that we had to have in place. But with that, we put a plan together, we identified it, we shared the information 5 years ago, and we started the process to understand where, what, and how we're going to build a water treatment plant. That plant is now in the ground after 5 years, and at the same time, we're now at the beginning of the 6th year, and it's nearly completed. It should be completed by midsummer, and we've got a great thing going on there, and it should be up and running by beginning of fall.
Thank you. And Candidate Decker, what would you tell a prospective resident who is concerned about the safety of the city's water?
I think it's an appropriate concern. I think we use water all the time. It's an important part of our health, and we should be concerned about the quality of our water. The manganese and the PFAS are quite concerning. I don't know if there's any opportunity to pursue the source of the PFAS and things like that are causing concern in our water, but if there is, perhaps we should look into that. I think, what else about city concerns about the water? The water treatment plant, as far as I recall, back in 2021 was forecasted to cost about $18 million, but I think when it's all said and done, this water treatment plant is coming in at closer to 28 or possibly more. Things got expensive real quick with the water treatment plant, and I think being concerned about the water is critical.
Thank you. And Candidate Decker, you will start with this next question. What have you learned from your constituents while door knocking and campaigning?
Good question. I'm not necessarily doing any door knocking. In any campaigning, I would say, in quotes, is really more just, and I haven't changed anything really about life. I just talk to people and let them know, hey, in casual conversation, which I'd be having anyway, I'm running for mayor. And I'm not planning on doing door knocking, and I'm not planning on having signs. I don't know how effective door knocking is, but I don't typically open the door for strangers and engage in a meaningful political conversation. And I think the signs are going to end up in a landfill, and that's not good for nature. And so really that doesn't mean I'm not talking with my neighbors, though. I'm at the vast majority of city council meetings, listening to open mic and talking with people day to day in the community, neighbors especially, attending open forums the city hosts, and listening to feedback and having conversations naturally, as I have been over the last few years.
Thank you. Candidate Rafferty, what have you learned from your constituents while door knocking and campaigning?
Well, I don't know if it's the campaigning or the door knocking, if you will, but I'm definitely hearing quite a bit of things at the City Hall. My phone, my email is out there, so we get quite a lot of different things there. Some of it was related to the Northwest Corridor as far as the master planning study, so then again you just keep trying to share the information that you have with how that's producing, or better yet, how it's transitioning, so that's in place. Concerns kind of come up with roads here and there, and at the same time we're again trying to address as many roads as possible on an annual basis. Same thing with trails. People want to have the trails expand even farther, so again that's why another tangible thing is very important. And then maybe the question of, again, if we talk about development, if you will, what about this? We have zoning ordinances that allows this type of product, that type of product. If they want to put those types of products in, then we have to let them. So.
Thank you. The next question is about the proposed public works facility, and we start with candidate Rafferty. What issues will the new public works facility address?
All of the above. What is that? 3 years ago, we were buying a dump truck at nearly $250,000. And we didn't buy it in the spring of the year, or we didn't buy it when it wasn't budgeted. And at the same time, the following year, all of a sudden it went up almost $100,000, the exact same product. We have a facility that is not made for men or women to work comfortably. It is sinful, but at the same time, trying to put those dollars and cents into effect and guide them to build the building. Every year we're delaying now is just costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And that is part of the reason for the water treatment plant. Again, those costs, whether it's product, labor, or whatever it might be, those costs are dramatically changing. So that is the main reason for the public works facility, have a good storage facility for a garage type setup for all of our equipment, if you will.
Thank you. And candidate Decker, what issues will the new public works facility address?
Practically speaking, I think it sounds to me like it'll address the ability to store equipment indoors, and there's some ease of use factor that goes into that as well. I don't know, I don't have all the information yet about if this is the wisest use for our tax dollars. I'd be interested to find out some more about whether it's the wisest idea for us to be purchasing and owning this equipment, or perhaps there are some cost-sharing opportunities with municipalities around us, or equipment sharing or whatnot, that may allow us to not have to build such a building or spend as much money on building such a building, or perhaps there are other opportunities. Maybe it's too late. But that's kind of the thought process that I would take to a project like this. And, you know, if somebody came to me from the city and said, we're having these problems and this is what we want for the solution, I would go through an analysis similar to that.
Thank you. And candidate Decker, this last question. With inflation and rising costs, how do you plan to manage city budgets without compromising essential services?
Yeah, fiscal responsibility is key. And we planned for the budget at least a quarter, half a year in advance. It gets approved towards the end of the year, and we decided what we're going to spend on what for the following year. And prices don't stay the same. They change throughout the year, and sometimes we're surprised and we have to make adjustments. And I think it's wise to include that into our budgeting experience. Earlier the better. Just assume everything's going to be more expensive. And that's why shoring up expenses like, do we need to be buying this equipment? Can we reduce the $500,000 a year burden from the rookeries in some fashion? Do we need to be spending the money that we're spending on what we're spending it on, given that everybody's purse strings are going to become tighter in the future?
Thank you, Candidate Rafferty. With inflation and rising costs, how do you plan to manage city budgets without compromising essential services?
Well, I think a major portion of our budget is related to employment. We have absolutely excellent staff, and those are the costs of doing a business, if you will. City services are extremely important. The benefits of having a public works facility that allows people to have the proper storage and the proper equipment and all these things and protected instead of the outside elements, I think is absolutely key. But not unlike what Catherine has mentioned, the inflationary rates of things are dramatic, and it's tough. The budget is definitely written and designed to cover everything that's needed within that year that's approved. And that has to be the maximum budget is approved now, will be coming up here at the end of September. And that'll be the maximum. And then we'll work to try and see if there's ways to cut it down without sacrificing any services.
Thank you. Now we'll move to closing statements, and you each have 1 minute. So Candidate Rafferty, would you please share with us your 1 minute closing statement?
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm Rob Rafferty, the Mayor of Lino Lakes. I've got a great deal of history here in efforts to understand solutions, issues, things across the board, whether it's related to the city of Lino Lakes or our neighboring communities. I spent a great deal of time. My wife and I have called it home since 97. So that means I have approximately 28 years of service, if you will, between council, planning and zoning, mayor, and as well as the Charter Commission. I'm a huge fan of American Legion and volunteer over there at the SAL in Lino Lakes. And with that, I'd ask for your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Decker, would you please share with us your 1 minute closing statement?
I'm Catherine Decker, candidate for mayor. I am requesting your vote, and Rob does have a lot of experience, but things have been going the way they've been going, and I think it's time for a change. So if you agree, then vote for me. And what's really important to me is that we figure out how to be more fiscally responsible, to make wise decisions that improve the quality of life in our community and retain our rural character that is so unique and gives us a competitive advantage over other cities. Thank you.
Thank you. This was very informative. We appreciate you spending your evening here answering questions, and we hope many people can view the online version. One of the places that people will turn to will be the Vote 411 website hosted by the League of Women Voters. It has links to the forums, but it also has questions the candidates have submitted answers to, and if candidates have websites or other contact information, you can find it on that Vote 411 website. If you're interested in joining the League, or you have to be at least 16, and to do so, please check out our website, LWVABC. To learn more about early voting, registering to vote, or absentee voting, go to the Secretary of State website, minvote.gov. This concludes our forum.